Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Dr. Movie. I'm Rick. I guess you would say I'm Dr. Movie. I don't know. It's the name of the show. I'm not really a doctor. I just play one on TV. So there you go. Just in time for Halloween, I wanted to dive into one of my, well, let's just say it's in my top 50 favorite movies of all time. That being The Beyond. Now, on Hail Ming, we just did From Beyond, which is a totally different movie. This is The Beyond. This is Lucio Fulci at possibly his best. There's a couple of the movies that I do like better, but after revisiting this could be the best well-shot, well-put-together Fulci surreal movie that he's done. So, always great to revisit this one and check it out again. And if you haven't seen this one, you're in for a treat. It is on Tubi right now, and I'm telling you, the transfer that they've got, the version they have, is a really nice looking version. The use of shadow and light that he used in this movie, is it Fulci's plan to do this? I don't know, but it is shot really, really well, and I just really paid attention to that this time around. So, great looking movie. If you're a fan of Fulci, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You know what you're getting with a Lucio Fulci movie. And this one is the third movie. You had Zombie, or Zombie Flesh Eaters, or Zombie 2, wherever you live, that version being the first of his romp into this kind of movie. The second being City of the Living Dead, another personal favorite of mine. And there is standout features in both of those movies. And in The Beyond, he took like the best of things that happen in those two movies and put them all in this movie together and just turned up the gasoline power a little bit more on them. So this thing is a gore fest. We call Fulci, the godfather of gore for a reason. You got De Rossi doing the special effects, which is his right-hand man. This movie is literally, the Beyond is a literal who's who of Italian horror cinema. And, I mean, it's swinging for the fences with everybody that's in this. They've all come from different movies and just well put together. If you're not familiar, this is a story about Louisiana back in the day. Going back into the 20s and 30s, I believe. It's like early 30s, I think, when it starts off. You got a guy that's in a hotel in Louisiana, and he's up in his room 36, as a matter of fact, and he's painting on this canvas, and he's painting this huge wasteland. All of a sudden, these guys pull up by boat. I guess that was their form of transportation. And they go in as basically a lynch mob, and they take this guy down into the basement of this hotel. And they beat him with chains, which Fulci kind of perfected this effect in Don't Torture a Duckling, another movie I'm definitely going to cover on here. Those scenes with the chain, to me, are just brutal. But they call this guy an ungodly warlock. The guy was painting the picture. They beat him with the chains, and then they push him up against the stone wall that's underneath this hotel, and they nail him to the wall through the wrist, very crucifixion-like, and then they tend to throw acid on him, and it just starts deteriorating his body away while he's just hanging there. It's a it's a very wild opening for a movie. And then it jumps ahead. Well, we do have to talk about this girl that's reading the book of Abon, however you want to say it. And she's reading these scriptures while all this is going on. And while she's reading, these flames come up, and you just see it kind of go away. And that brings us into modern times. And you got Catriona McCall, who is the new owner of this hotel, and she's reopening it. It's been closed for however long ago this was, 60 years, 50 years, something to that degree. And she's got all kinds of people there working. She's got an architect that's following her around, talking about what they can do to the place. They got outside painters and all this stuff going on. Well, one of the guys that's painting sees an image in one of the windows, and he falls and hurts himself. So they call out a doctor to come look at him, and the doctor is the great David Warbeck, another legend of these movies, and he's great in this movie. Dr. McCabe is the character he is. And so while he's looking at this guy, and they end up taking him to the hospital to do more, tests and stuff on the guy and make sure he's okay, it's time for the plumber to show up and do some work. Well, where does he go? He goes downstairs to do this work, down in the basement where all this stuff happened all these years ago. And did I mention this is a gore fest? Because it absolutely is. Poor Joe the plumber, man, he's working on the floor, or the wall, actually. He's busting down one of the rock walls to fix some of the plumbing problems. And only Fulci can record water deteriorating a clay/rock wall, and it looked disgusting, just like all of his effects do as well. And poor Joe gets his face kind of ripped off and eyeballs gouged out, which happens a lot in this movie. And then later on, he's found by this crazy woman that just works there, came along with the building, I guess. She's a full-time employee for Catriona, or Liza is the character that Catriona is playing. And this crazy woman just kind of enters from room to room and shows up and is scary looking, and she goes down and finds Joe. And then we kind of see Liza driving down the highway, and she sees this blind woman standing in the middle of the road, and this is Emily. And Emily is apparently a specter of some sort. I mean, she seems real, but she's blind. She's got these really awkward-looking eyes. And she's there to warn Catriona that she needs to get out of there and get away from the place. And as the story goes on, we find out that the body of the guy that got killed at the beginning is still in the basement, and he floats up. He's in this, like a tub thing. The crazy woman finds him, and they take the body to the hospital that's been preserved for 60 years or whatever. And, of course, the doctor wants to do some studies on that body as well. Anyways, you get deeper and deeper in this, and what's really going on is, and this is a Fulci thing for sure, Fulci loves to take an innocent person that gets killed wrongfully, and that opens a gate to hell. And that's basically what's happening here. This guy was killed by these people as a sacrifice, and the hotel is now a gate to hell, and he comes back as this entity that pretty much controls the dead. And all the dead are coming back and wreaking havoc. There's this great scene of when Joe passes away, and his wife and his daughter show up at the hospital to bring clothes for the body and all this stuff and clarify that it was Joe that got killed. And his face is just mangled. But the mom goes into the room by herself with Joe. The daughter's out in the hallway, and she hears the mom scream. And this is another Fulci thing. Weird things that just happen in these Italian flicks that really have no explanation, but you don't care because it's just crazy enough that it's entertaining. The daughter runs in after she hears her mom yell, and her mom is laying flat on the floor. I don't know if she's dead or paralyzed, but there's this big glass container, like a 10-gallon jug, and clear liquid is pouring out of it down on the mom's face, and it's just eating her face away, like it's the acid that they threw on the warlock earlier, if you want to call him a warlock, you ungodly warlock. And her face, and Fulci just dwells on this stuff, right? It's not like you see a quick shot and you go away. You're going to look at this thing for a good 2.5, 3 minutes. And it's nasty, right? Later on, they end up having the funeral for both of the girl's parents. And when the girl walks away, her eyes are like Emily's eyes. She's got that weird, look to them. There's no pupils to them. And come to find out, that's a sign that you've been taken to the beyond. Just throwing that out there. There's a scene where these tarantulas attack the architect who's going to look in the registry or the library to see the original plans of the hotel and stuff, and he falls on the ground, and these tarantulas come up and basically bite his tongue off, bite his lips off, eat one of his eyeballs. Crazy Fulci stuff, right? And you do get to see Fulci play a character. He always shows up in his movies. He's the librarian in this one. The crazy lady later on gets killed by Joe, who basically takes her head and rams it onto a spike, and it could be one of the spikes that our original Warlock guy was nailed to the wall with. And again, you get an eyeball gouge. Again, Fulci is not holding back in this movie. Even though I'm describing all this stuff, this movie has some tension to it. Which, again, Fulci's known for just bang, bang, bang. Who cares if the story makes sense? This one's more comprehensible. When it comes down to what's really going on, Dr. McCabe finds the Book of Avon. He reads it and realizes that this is a gate to hell, and this is going to be a real issue. So they end up going back to the hospital, and this is where everything falls apart. You get all the great Fulci zombies coming after them, which are basically the bodies that are in the hospital. And I love Fulci's zombies, because they're not just after you to eat. I mean, again, they're gonna eat you, but they are evil incarnate that's just roaming the earth. And I really think that gives it a different perspective, because they don't function like a Romero zombie or anything like that. These things are very solemn, very dark, and they move so little until it's time to react, or they get close to your time to attack. And then they are so fast, and their reach and ability, they never have their eyes open, they're not looking at you, they sense you. I've always found that so creepy. So you get a big dose of all this going on. And Catriona, or Liza, ends up finding the little girl in the hospital as well. And I'm not going to give too much away here, because the goal of this is for you to check the movie out. But there's one scene I want to talk about here, though, that's kind of a blooper that they left in the movie. There's a scene where Catriona and the little girl is in the elevator, and David Warbeck gets in there, and he starts loading his gun, and you see in the elevator door is closing, but he's taking the bullets and he's shoving them down the barrel of the gun, and you see Catriona kind of smile like she's going to start laughing. He just did something. I think they said it was multiple takes, and he just did that. And that's the one that ended up in the movie. And you can, if you watch the movie, be looking for that, because you can literally see her smile when she sees what he's doing. So that's a cool little thing. There is a part where they are running away from the zombies and stuff. And again, you're going right back into Fulci's surrealism, which doesn't have to make any sense, because that's just the way these movies are. But David Warbeck and Catriona are running away, and they go down a flight of stairs at the hospital, and when they get to the bottom of the stairs, they're on the spiral staircase that's in the bottom of the hotel. Usually you don't get any explanation or anything, and you still don't get an explanation, but even their characters say this is unexplainable. This doesn't make any sense. How are we here? And I don't want to give the ending of this away. It's got one of those endings that Fulci is really not known for. Usually he leaves it wide open, and if you're used to City of the Living Dead, that thing just ends like, what? What happened here? But this one has one of those endings that, to me, when I think of this movie, I think of the final scene of this movie. And again, I don't want to give it away. I want you to check it out. And I hope you do. If you have not seen this movie, this is what Fulci is known for. And this is, again, praised as possibly his best movie. And after revisiting it, you know what? I kind of have to agree. Not my personal favorite, but it's definitely one of the best. So do yourself a favor, especially for Halloween. This is a perfect movie to throw in and be watching. If you like crazy supernatural zombie stuff, this is it. This is the one to go for. Well, folks, that's going to be it for this one. We will check you later.